Matis Masay 6. For a share the topic of the greatness and downfall of Zimri ben Salu, and how it corresponds to Chodesh Av, given touching on Dalet, verse 1.
Tonight is the Ilula, the yahrzeit of the Ari HaKadosh. Hey Earth. The Torah has many layers, many stratas. If the surface of the Torah is Masayk Midvash V'Neifes Tzufin, it's like a garden of flowers, the most beautiful flowers. And this is the pshat of the Torah. For those who are privileged, and that's for those who already reached a high madrega in Torah, and they have learned already Shas and Paiskim, they can start digging in that garden and find that underneath there are gems. You can dig up diamonds in that garden. There's more to that garden than the surface. If you dig a little, you're going to find gold. If you dig still deeper, you'll find diamonds. If you dig still deeper, you'll find more precious diamonds. This is the Torah. The Torah on its very surface is Kodesh Kedoshim and is Mesukim Edvash V'Neifes Tzufim. But for those who are fit for it, for those who are lowly, there is something special, the pnimius of the Torah. It's not for everybody. The Ari HaKadosh exposed the hidden layers of the Torah. One of the amudim, one of the pillars of Torah Sa'ari is the inyan of Said HaGilgal. That is that the Rabbeinu Shalom, his intention is that every neshama should come to its perfection. Every neshama has to have a tikkun. Like the pasuk says, "V'chashav machshavos levilti yidach mimenu nidach." The Rabbeinu Shalom he contrives devices that no nidach, no one shall ever get lost. No Yiddish neshama, no neshama that has a shaykhis, that has anything to do with Kedusha, can get lost. If a neshama comes on in this world and is not successful in accomplishing what it's supposed to accomplish, he's sent down again and again until he reaches his perfection. And the Rabbeinu Shalom helps every Jewish neshama, every neshama that has its origin in the structure of Adam Rishon. The Rabbeinu Shalom helps and guides each neshama that Seif Kol Sof, ultimately, it has to come to its perfection. And V'chashav machshavos levilti yidach mimenu nidach. The Rabbeinu Shalom contrives devices that no one shall ever be shall ever be pushed away, that no one should be rejected. And David HaMelech says, Elokai nifliyesecha u'machshaveisecha eleinu. Your wonders and your machshavos are all intent upon us. The Rabbeinu Shalom, that is his goal, that everyone, through niflais, through wonderful ways, through machshavos of the Rabbeinu Shalom, brings everyone to his perfection. with the advent of the Chodesh of, we learn Parshas Pinchas. This year, the kviyas of this year was that on Parshas Pinchas, it was Shabbos Mevorachim of. We benched the Chodesh of. And in Parshas Pinchas, the Torah tells us a story of Pinchas who killed Zimri ben Salu, who committed znus with Kazbi Bas Tzul, and because he was Atachas HaShakine Elei Eleikav, Bayachaper al Bnei Yisrael. The Gemara, the Midrashim tell us that this Zimri ben Salu had 3 names. According to the Gemara, he had 5 names. According to the Medrash Tanchuma, he had 3 names. We'll use the Medrash Tanchuma because it's more simpler to deal with. He had 3 names. The first time that we meet Zimri ben Salu was when Yankov and his family went down to Mitzrayim, and the Torah enumerates all these 70 nefashos, 70 people who went down with Yankov Avinu to Mitzrayim, and according to the Mishpachas, and the Shemaim, among the sons of Shemaim, Shaul ben Haknaanis. Shaul, the son of the Knaanis. And the Gemara darshans, this Shaul, he is Zimri ben Salu. Why is he called Shaul? Shehishil es atzmai la'avayra. He has lent himself to do an avayra. He lent himself. He gave himself out for the service of an avayra. Ben HaKnaanis, he is the son of Dinah, who was violated by Shechem. Shenivala leknani. She was violated by Shechem. It seems that since we're going to meet this Shaul ben Haknaanis in the later Sedra, in the Parsha of Balak and Pinchas, and there we find that Zimri ben Salu did an Aveira with Kazbi Bas Tzul. Zimri ben Salu was a Nasi of the Shevet Shemaim. Where did this come to him? How was he ever able to fall to such depths? The answer is he had some impurity in himself. That impurity stems back to his great-grandmother Dinah, the daughter of Yankov. The holy Dinah Hagdasha, the daughter of Yankov Kadeshenu Kadesh Yankov. She was violated by Shechem ben Chamayah, and apparently he injected some impurity into her. That impurity came down later into her child, Zimri. And the Torah calls him Shaul. He has lent himself to an Aveira. And the Torah says, why did he lend himself to an Aveira? The answer is Ben Haknaanis. He is a son of Dinah who was violated by a Knaani. He had an impurity himself which he inherited from his mother. His essence, his etzem, was pure. He is one of the 70 nefashos that the Torah says Eidos, that they were oivdim lekeil echad. He's a wonderful heilige neshama, but there's some dirt on him. It has to be washed off. There's an impurity in him, and therefore, because he has lent himself to the Aveira. The next time that we meet Zimri, we find him in the Sedra in Nasai, in Bamidbar and in Nasai, and in Bahaloischa. We find him in the splendor of Nissen. And there, his name is Shlumiel ben Tzuri Shaddai. Shlumiel, the son of Tzuri Shaddai, the Nasi of the Shevet of Shimon. In his splendor, he is Shlomiel ben Tzuri Shaddai. In his fall, he is Zimri ben Salu. When he fell, he's not Shlomiel ben Tzuri Shaddai anymore. He has been stripped of this distinction of Shalom, Shlomiel. And the one who killed him took that distinction. Pinchas. The Shalom went over to Pinchas. The Shalom of the word Shlomiel. And Tzuri Shaddai, also Pinchas took over. Because this name, Shin Daled and Yud, that is the name of the greatest attribute that a Yid has. Kedushas Abris, a tzaddik. Every mitzvah has its particular Shem HaKadosh, one of the Sheva Shemis. The Shem of Bris Milah is the Shem Shakai, Shin Dalet and Yud. When the Rebbeinu Shloim gave the mitzvah of Bris Milah to Avraham Avinu, he told him, Ani Keil Shakai, Tesalach Lefanei V'Hayei Sanim. If you were ever present by a bris, you would notice that when they say the pasuk, B'damaya Chayi, the male will dip his finger into the wine of the Kaishel Bracha, and he will write on the child's tongue the shame, Shin Daled and Yud. That's the shame of the bris. So Shlomiel ben Tzuri Shaddai lost that shame, and Pinchas took it over. He became Eliyahu Hanavi, the Malach HaBris, who comes to every bris. It's the impurity of Shechem that caused this fall of Shlomiel ben Tzuri Shaddai. The Ari HaKadosh reveals to us a wonderful revelation, something which is surprising. Hold your cheers. This Zimri ben Salu came down in a different Gilgal over 1,000 years later. You know who? Rabbi Akiva. Of all things, he's Rabbi Akiva. This Kazbi Bas Tzur also came down again. She was the wife of Turnus Rupus, the tyrant, the Roman tyrant, who later was Megayer herself, and she became the wife of Rabbi Akiva. In other words, both these neshamas came, and more yet, Kazbi was really Dina. Dina came down as Kazbi, then she came down again as the wife of Turnus Rupus, the Gentile, who was Megayer herself, and became the wife of Rabbi Akiva. And therefore the Ari HaKadosh explains that since, because of the Aveira of Zimri ben Salu, 24,000 Jews lost their lives in the Magaifa, Vayiyu HaMeisim BaMagaifa Abba V'Yesrim Elef, 24,000. So therefore Rabbi Akiva also lost 24,000 Talmidim in the days of Sfira, and that's why we have the Avelis of Sfira. This is as far as what the Ari HaKadosh tells us. It tells us more details, but we won't go into them now. As I mentioned before, we read the Parsha of Pinchas when the Chodesh Av comes around, especially this year, when it was mamish the Shabbos of the Mevarchim of, and the Torah in Hilchos Chodesh tells us that there are 12 Shvatim, Reuben, Shimon, Levi, and so on, and there are 12 Chadashim, Nisan, Iyar, 7, and so on. These 12 Chadashim correspond to the 12 Shvatim. Each Shevet has its Chodesh, or if you will, each Chodesh has its Shevet. According to the Degalim, to the Seder of the Degalim, the way it's mentioned in Parshas Bamidbar and in Nosayim B'Haloischa. That is, the first, and the way that we have them by the Chanukas HaMizbeach. Vayayim Arishain, the first day of Nisan, it was the Hikriv Nachshon ben Aminadav, the Nasi of the Shevet Yehuda. In other words, Nisan is Yehuda. The second day, the second Chodesh, which is corresponding to the second day in Nisan, Aviv, Av Yud Beis, the second day is Yisascha. Yisascha is Iyar. Then comes Vulim, which is, then comes Zvulun, which is 7, and Tammuz and Av is Reuven and Shimon. So when we bench Rosh Chodesh Av, and now we are experiencing the days and the Hanhagais and the Halachais of the Chodesh Av, actually, what we are having now is the Chodesh of Shemai. Who was the Nasi of Shemai? Shlomiel ben Suri Shaddai, who was called Shol ben Aknanis, who was also called Zimri ben Salu. Each of these names denotes a certain period in the life of this Nasi, in his greatness and in his lowness. Bayayim HaChamishi, Nasi Livnei Reuven, Shlomiel ben Suri Shaddai, and that corresponds with the Chodesh HaChamishi, the fifth Chodesh, Nisan, Iyar, 7, Tammuz, and Av. We know that the Chodesh Av is a sorrowful Chodesh, it's a melancholy Chodesh, it's inconvenient Chodesh. We can't wash, we can't eat meat or drink wine. There's a lot of inconveniences. We are uncomfortable in this Chodesh. However, my purpose now is not to go into the availus of the Chodesh. I'd rather go into the greatness of the Chodesh. I don't want to talk about the Chodesh of Zimri ben Salu. I'd rather talk about the Chodesh of Shlomiel ben Suri Shaddai. Because the Navi Zechariah promises us that a time will come, when Mashiach will come, that this Chodesh Av will be the top of all the Chadashim. And it'll be a partner with Nisan, and even more yet. The Moshe says even more yet, and so did the Sfarim say. The 3 weeks will be the most joyous part of the year when Mashiach will come. Tisha B'Av is like Shmini Atzeres. That's what the Moshe says in the Yad Sfarim, that the 21 days between Shivas of Tammuz and Tisha B'Av are corresponding to the 21 days between Rosh Hashanah and Simchas Torah, Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. And the Tisha B'Av is Simchas Torah, the most joyous day in the year. That's what it's going to be. And the Navi Zechariah says, Tzayma Revi'i v'Tzayma Chamishi Yiyu leBeis Yehuda leSasain uleSimcha uleMayadim Tayvim. There'll be very great Mayadim, very joyous events. This Tzayma Revi'i, which means Shiva B'Tammuz, and this Tzayma Chamishi, which means Tisha B'Av. Zimri ben Salu was the Nasi of the Chodesh Av. Being the Nasi, he represents whatever Av represents. He is the generator of what the Chodesh Av is. He is, in fact, if you want, the pasuk tells it you befeirish. V'shem ish Yisrael hamurke, Zimri ben Salu, Nasi beis Av. He is the Nasi of those of Av, the family of Av, the Shevet Shemai. La Shemaini. His history corresponds with the Chodesh Av. Zimri ben Salu was a great man. The second Nasi, Zimri ben Salu, was the Nasi of the Shevet of Shimon, the second Shevet after Reuven. And he was a great man. He was, the Torah says Eidos on him, Shivim Nefesh, She'avdu L'Keil Echad. The Torah says Eidos that he was a person with perfect emunah, She'avad L'Keil Echad. His life was dedicated only to the Rabbeinu Shalom. He was zeicher to be among by the bedside of Yankov Avinu when Yankov Avinu gave the brachas to his whole family, Shol ben Aknanis. He was appointed to be the Nasi of Shemain by the Rabbeinu Shalom alone, Al Pi Adibel. And this Zimri ben Salu, every year we celebrate his greatness. We don't say Tachanun the first 12 days of Nisan, because those were the days that the Nesiim brought their korban. And on the 5th day of the Nisan, we don't say Tachanun, because by Yom HaChamishi, Hikchiv, Shalomio ben Tzuri Shadai, Lamate Shemai. It's his Yom Tov. Zimri ben Salu is great. He represents and corresponds with the history of Av, with the story of Av. Av, as the name implies, is a father. There's another Chodesh like that. Aviv, Nisan, Av Yud Beis, the father of the 12 Chodashim. Shimon always goes together with Nisan. It's the first day of Nisan that is the first day of Nisan that decides when Tisha B'Av. The first day of Pesach that decides when Tisha B'Av will be. Since last Pesach, if you remember, Shabbos was Erev Pesach, and the first day of Pesach, when we sat down to the Seder, was on a Sunday. So therefore, Tisha B'Av would be on a Sunday. He has a shaychus with Shimon. The bracha of Shimon is together with Yehuda, with Nisan. Like Rashi says, ולשמן Yehuda Amar, Shema Hashem Kal Yehuda. Shema is Maramis to Shemin. He goes together with Yehuda. He's Nasi base of Zimri ben Salu, and I am going to tell you some gematriyais today. You know what gematriyais are, huh? The numerical value of words. My purpose is, and I am a father to Hashem, I should accomplish this purpose. I want to show you nifla'is in the Torah. A time will come when Zimri ben Salu will again become Shlomiel ben Surishadai. When he'll come to his tikkun, to his shleimus. Zimri ben Salu, Nasi base of, is the gematria Rani the Simchi Bas Tzion. That Chaydish will be a Chaydish of Rani the Simchi. Av will be a Chaydish of Rina and Simcha. In Tisha B'Av is the Leida of Mashiach. The Medrash tells us that in Eicha. Tisha B'Av is the birth of Mashiach. Exactly what that means, I won't go into it now. Whether it actually means literally that every year somebody who's born who could be Mashiach, or whatever other pshat we can say in it. But this is what the Medrash tells us. On Tisha B'Av, Mashiach is born. It's the Chaydesh HaChamishi. And if we want to play around with the Isis and rearrange the Isis, Chaydesh HaChamishi are the Isis HaChaydesh HaMashiach. HaChamishi are the Isis HaMashiach. It's the Chaydesh of Mashiach. It will become the Chaydish that Mashiach will appear to us in all his splendor. He will strip his begadim of Zimri ben Salu and put on the beautiful cloak of Shlomiel ben Surishadai. He is a Neshama Kedusha. And he became a Gulgul, like the Ari HaKadosh says, into Rabbi Akiva, the greatest of all the Tanoim. And there is a piece of Gemara at the end of Masechta Malkus which requires a lot of explanation. And I am just going to take a few points and try to explain it in the limited time which is yet available. The Gemara tells us this. Rabbi Akiva and his Chaveirim went on the Har HaTzeifim, and they saw the Harabayas, and they ripped their clothing, Kriya. They came to the Harabayas, and they saw a shual, a fox, coming out of the Kodesh HaGadoshim. The Tanaim started crying. They wept. Rabbi Akiva laughed and was happy. So they tell him, Rabbi Akiva, why are you laughing? Why are you so happy? Rabbi Akiva says, why are you weeping? So they told him, in the Heilige Kodesh HaKadoshim, the place where it says, V'yazar HaKarev Yumas, anyone who isn't a Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, who goes into their Eskayv Misa, a shual, the lowly fox goes in, there isn't any lower animal than the shual. In the Chazal, you always find them in contrast to the Ari, to the lion. The lion and the fox, no, the great lion, the small, and the small fox. So he said, since the pasuk tells us in Eicha, al zeh davar libeinu, al hatziyan sheshameim shu'alim hilchu bay. The shu'alim foxes are in the Harabayas, where the Kodesh HaGadoshim is. So that's why we weep. So Rabbi Akiva says, that's why I'm happy. If that pasuk became a kuyim, then we're waiting ready for the other pasuk, the Nechamis of Yerushalayim. So the Mepharshim explained the Medrash that when the Chachamim saw that a fox had the Reshus min HaShemayim to go into the Beis Kachi HaKadoshim, that means that the Kodesh HaKadoshim lost its Kedusha. The Kedusha isn't there anymore, and therefore a fox can come into there. That's an explanation which the Mepharshim and the Gemara say. However, according to the Rambam, there's a machlokes between the Ravad and the Rambam if the Har HaBayis and Yerushalayim still retains its Kedusha today. And the Rambam paskins that it does. Yerushalayim has the Kedusha in the Torah that it had b'shasa Beis Mikdash Kayim. And the Har HaBayis more yet. And anybody who walks up on the Har HaBayis today who is Tamei is Chayiv Kares. And Kodesh HaKadoshim, certainly. Well, so the Gemara says that when Rabbi Akiva said, if that pasuk was Mikuyim, Shu'olam Hilchu Bay, then I'm expecting the psukim of Muhammad to be Mikuyim. So the Gemara finishes off this way. But Lashain Hazeh Amru Lai. They told him this Lashain, Akiva Nichamtanu, Akiva Nichamtanu. Akiva, you have consoled us. Akiva, you have consoled us. I don't remember ever such a Lashon in the Gemara, that the Gemara should say, the Lashon has Amrulai. This is the quote. Why must the Gemara say the Lashon has Amrulai? The Gemara should have said, so he said, Akiva Nechamtanu. Why does the Gemara emphasize that the Lashon has Amrulai? Everything has its marking. The Maral explains that in the beginning of the Sefer Netzach Yisrael. Everything has its marking. And every person is mitzad his neshama belongs in a certain marking. Therefore, chein markem al yashveha. Everybody likes his markem, likes his place. If you are situated in a certain place, it means that your neshama is corresponding to that place. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there. If you, my dear Talmidim of Eisha Torah, if you were Zoiche to be learning in Yerushalayim, near HaKodesh, you have a shaykhus to Yerushalayim. Otherwise, you wouldn't be admitted into Yerushalayim. You wouldn't be here. Nothing is b'mikra. Nothing happens by chance. If you see a dog running around in Yerushalayim near HaKodesh, that dog isn't a simple dog. Otherwise, he would run around in my hometown in New York. What is he doing in Yerushalayim? That dog is something special if the Rabbeinu Shalom admitted it into Yerushalayim near HaKodesh. Everything has its reason, why it's in a certain place, why it's in a certain time, and why it belongs to a certain person. Every person, every Yid has a part in the B'riyah. The Rabbeinu Shalom gave over the entire creation to Adam Arishan and his children. Today it means the B'nai Yisrael. Every one of us has a part of the B'riyah that belongs to us and that is affected by our doings, what we do. So, what happened was, Rabbi Akiva saw a shu'al in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Rabbi Akiva was wondering, what business does this shu'al, this fox, have in the Kodesh HaKadoshim? With what did he merit to find himself in such a holy place? A shu'al, a fox in the Kodesh HaKadoshim? Rabbi Akiva was a person who knew things. The Gemara tells us in Avodah Zarah that Rabbi Akiva, by chance, the Gemara, of course, a tzaddik is very careful with his eyes, And when he senses from far that he has to be careful with his kedusha, so inayim, he'll be careful. But he saw the wife of Tonis Chutz, and the Gemara says, how come he saw her? Why wasn't he careful? Because she came around from around the corner, and he didn't expect her to come then. He saw the wife of Tonis Chutz. It's a Gemara by the Zohar Daf Chaf. So Rabbi Akiva spat, he laughed, and he cried. He spat, he spit it on the ground, because she has such an impure origin. She was a guy at that time, the wife of Tonis Chutz. He laughed because he saw Baruch HaKodesh that she's going to be Megayer himself and become his wife. And he cried. She was a very beautiful person. And such a beautiful person, Sof Kol Sof, will be buried in the ground. There's a lot of kedusha in this piece of Gemara. A big lesson how to control somebody's Yetzer Hara. That when a Yetzer Hara comes, you think about what's the end of life. Anyway, Rabbi Akiva, when he saw the wife of Tonis Chutz, he laughed. The second time, because he saw Baruch HaKodesh that that's going to be his wife. He knew it. Rabbi Akiva knew things that we don't know. The second time that we find that Rabbi Akiva laughs is in the Gemara in Malchus, which I mentioned before. He saw the shul and he laughed. I would say that these two laughters are related to each other. When he saw the wife of Tonis Chutz, he saw that this person is a part of his neshama. He laughed. She's going to be Megayer and come to her tikkun. She's going to become my wife. She'll become the Rebbetzin of Rabbi Akiva. That's something. Think about it, that who she was, the wife of the Roman tyrant Tonis Chutz. When he saw that shul, Rabbi Akiva laughed just like he laughed by the wife of Tonis Chutz. Rabbi Akiva saw something that we wouldn't have seen. He saw that shul has a shaykhus to him. It's part of his neshama. That shul, that fax, is related to him. It's an extension of his neshama. There is a part of his neshama which is now in that shul, which is waiting for its tikkun. And therefore it was admitted into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which means that the time of the tikkun is coming. And who was this shul? Ayin and the Aleph interchange in Lashon Kodesh. We find that very often. A shu'o, if you would change the ayin into an aleph, you have the word shaul, shaul ben Aknanis. He saw himself in that shu'o, and he saw that the bad part of him, the part of Zimri ben Salu, already is starting to come to a tikkun, because the character of a shu'o is zenus. The destruction of the purity of Klal Yisrael. Like the pasuk says, Erzu in the Shirashirim, Erzu anu shu'olim ktanim mechabelim kranim. The shu'ol destroys the keren, the vineyard of the Rebbeinu Shalom. The purity of Jewish families, that they don't mix with Goyim, that's called a keren. Keren is B'Gematria 10 times the Shem Havaya, the complete purity. Like when there is a pure marriage, the Gemara calls it Invei Agefen B'Yinvei Agefen, the marriage of grapes to grapes. And the Shual is the opposite, he's Mechabel the Kerem. And that is the Aveira of Zimri, that he admitted the Zera Kodesh into a Gentile, the Kazvi Bastur. So when he saw the shul in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it was admitted into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, he saw a tikkun. He saw himself in that shul. In the Makim of the Kapara, in the Makim of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, where all the Avedas are rectified, where the Kohen Gadol comes in on Yom Kippur, and there he effects the Kapara for all the Avedas. And he saw the Zimri ben Shaul, the Zimri ben Salu in that Shu'al. And if you want, Shu'al is the Gematria Zimri ben Salu. He saw the Zimri ben Salu in that Shu'al. The Shaul ben Aknanis. And he told the Chachanim why he laughed. And they realized it. And they said, Akiva nechamtanu. You have consoled us. We're seeing the beginning of the tikkun already. And they added something to what Rabbi Akiva told him. He said that this Shu'al is the Gematria Zimri ben Salu. So they said, Akiva nechamtanu. Akiva nechamtanu is the Gematria Kasbi bas Tzur. The second half of the zivrig, the partner of Rabbi Akiva, the second half of his neshama. In other words, the tikkun is coming to its shleimus. So B'lashon hazeh amrulai, the Gemara emphasizes it was these words that it told him. Akiva nechamtanu, which is the Gematria Kasbi bas Tzur, the wife of the Zimri ben Salu, the wife of Rabbi Akiva. And they said it twice, Akiva nechamtanu, because when it's twice, it's the Gematria nefliyesecha u'machshveisecha eleinu, the pasuk which reveals to us the side hagilgul, that things come to its tikkun through the gilgul. Now, when Rabbi Akiva saw this Shu'al, he knew that this Shu'al is Shaul ben Aknanis. But Shu'al is ayin, and Shaul is with an aleph. But the aleph and the ayin interchange. That is always, when the ayin has its tikkun, it becomes an aleph. There's a pasuk in Tehillim, speaking about Esav. Esav is the chazir, the pig. Yichasmena chazir me'yo'ar. And if you look in the Tehillim, which is Neduyak, you're going to find that the ayin of the word yo'ar is suspended. That's how it's written, and that's how it should be written. Ayin tluya, a hanging, suspended ayin. So Chazal tell us, and Rash brings it into Tehillim, that if Yidden are Zayche, the ayin will become an aleph. A chazir meya'ar is a ferocious beast, but a chazir from the ya'aya with the aleph is a harmless beast. Esav will be rendered harmless when Mashiach will come. It'll become chazir meya'aya, but really, where do we find it? Where is the origin of this? In the very beginning of Bereshit. The Rabbanu Shalom, after the Aveira of the Eitz Hadas, V'yat Hashem Elokim liyadam ulechava kasneis oya v'yalbishen. The Eibishter made to Adam and to Chava kasneis oya, a cloak of skin. So the Medrash tells us, "B'medrashay sherabi meya kasuf kasneis oya ba'alef." Not oya with the ayin, which means skin, but oya with the aleph, which means light. When Mashiach will come, the mayor who sees the Geula doesn't see kasnes oya. He sees, which means skin, the ayin, which means galus. He sees the aleph, oya. Vayem Elokim yihi oya. So the Zayah says that's Mashiach ben David. That's Rabbi Meir who saw the tikkun in the place of the kilkul. In the place of the oil, the skin, the ayin, he saw the aleph. And on Rosh Hashanah, we say, our ayin is hanging, it's suspended. Please, Rabbeinu Shalom, change the ayin into an aleph. Like Rabbi Akiva saw the Shua with the ayin, but he already saw the Shua with the aleph, Shal ben Aknanis, the tikkun, because he saw him after the Golus, the Chasam Sofer explains that the Golus is always with the Ayin. The Chasam Sofer says that Yosef says is the Ois Ayin Golus. The Golus always has the Ayin in it. Because in Mitzrayim, the first Golus, there was Shivim and Nefesh, 70. In the second Golus, it was 70 years in Babel. In today's Golus, the Golus Edom, we're scattered in 70 nations, Ayin Umayis. The Golus is always with the Ayin, and we're waiting that this Golus will change to Aleph. So now we understand why Shaul ben Aknanis is called Shaul Shehishil es Atzmai la'Avera. He lent himself to an Avera. Usually when somebody, like the expression goes, he sold to the Satan. A person who does Averis sells his neshama to the Satan. He becomes the property of the Satan. Who knows what's going to happen to that neshama? Like you have the Nimka Leika Mishpachas Ger, he sold to the Avodah Zarah in Parshas Bahal. Shaul ben Aknanis didn't sell his neshama, which means that he is no more the master of himself. Now he belongs to the Satan. Shaul just lent his neshama. And the time will come when Shaul says, give me back my neshama, I lent it to you, it's still mine. He didn't give over his neshama, it was only a temporary, he lent it. Shehishel Asatzmai. We're now in the Chodesh of Shimon. The Chodesh of Shimon went through a lot of madreigas, a lot of changes. Shimon was great, Shimon fell, Shimon will rise. Shalemiel was great, Shalemiel fell, Shalemiel started rising when he became Rabbi Akiva, and then he will come to his complete rise when all those neshamas who are astray, that have a shaykhus with Shemaim, Sham Avain, there is sin, all those neshamas will rise. That's going to be when Tisha B'Av will turn into, that's going to be when Tisha B'Av turns into that big Yom Tov. Now we are in the Chodesh of, in a very inconvenient, sorrowful, melancholy Chodesh.
7 a.m.
But there is a great future to this Chodesh. We are neshamas of the Golus. We are neshamas of Kosnes Oil with the Ayin. There's a great future for us. When this Chodesh comes, we have to realize we can do something to rectify that which has been spoiled by Zimri ben Salu, and bring the Chodesh of, bring the neshamas of the Chodesh of, the neshamas of Rabbi Akiva, Eikev, the neshamas of Ikvus of the Mashiach, bring those neshamas back to their place where they really belong, to their splendor, not to their fall. Some Sefer used to say that the Chodesh Av consists of two Chodashim. Two Tisha B'Av it's called Av. After Tisha B'Av it's called Menachem. Some call it Menachem Av. Some Sefer says Av is one thing and Menachem is another thing. Anyway, the Chachamim saw there are foxes in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Rabbi Akiva understood that if the foxes in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, that's already on the Chamer. Shu'alim is the Gematria Chodesh Menachem. That's the Nechama already. And when the Nechama will come to its real top, to its climax, it'll be the Adam Arishain would take off his kosnais oil, his cloak of skin with the ayin, and with an Adam Rishon. That's really the neshama of Mashiach, like the Svarim tell us. The neshama of Mashiach came down 3 times in this world. Adam is Rosh Hashanah. Adam, David, Mashiach. That's what it says from the Yeriah Kodesh. Anyway, Adam Rishon wore kosnais oil as a result of eating from the Eitz Hadas. He would take off his kosnais oil, and he will put on his splendorful kosnais oil with the aleph. Kosnais oil with the aleph. Kosnais oil with the aleph is the gematria Shlomo ben Suri Shaddai. Shimon in its splendor. And that's what we are asking for. At the end of Eicha, when we finish the kinais, the last kina is Al Hatziyin Sheshami. That's the end of the kinais. When the pasuk says further, Shu'alim Hilchul Bait, that's ready the Mechana. Shu'alim is the Gematria Chaydish Menachem. And we have no more kinais. Now it's only Nechamais. Ad Hashem Eliyadam Teishet. Kisach Adadayah. And so on. Hashevein Hashem Elikecha B'Neshuva. Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. With that, we finish the Sefer Eicha. Kekedem. Rabbeinu Shalom rejuvenate us, renew us, kekedem, like it was before the Chet of Adam Rishon, when Shlomo was Shlomo, not when he was Zimri, when Adam Rishon wore kosnais oil, not with the aleph, not with the ayin, but with an aleph. And that is what the avodah of the Chodesh of all of us, that was zeiche to be in Yerushalayim Kodesh. We should see the tikkun already in that. The Bnei Shlomo admitted us into Yerushalayim. My grandfather, your grandfathers, would have given away 10 years of their life to be zeiche to be in Eretz Yisrael. They weren't admitted, especially in Yerushalayim. Now times are changing. It seems that we are already very close to the Geula. Nobody can tell you when the Geula will be. Alpha Pishi Yisma Meya is also part of the Ani Maimen. But according to the Semana of the Gemara and the Midrashim, we're pretty close. So now is a time to put all our energy and all our with intent into Hasmada in Torah, into Kavana and Tefillah, Mesiras Nefesh and Kiyum HaMitzvahs and in Tzedakah, and work hard, strike while the iron is hot. Now is a period when we can be Zeicha to Geula, when we can lift the Chodesh of from the ground and put the Chodesh of where it belongs on the top. Chodesh Yameinu Kekedem.
For a share on the topic of the greatness and downfall of Zimri ben Salu, and how it corresponds to Chodesh Av, give a touch in the Dalet, press 1. For a share on the topic of the greatness and downfall of Zimri ben Salu, and how it corresponds to Chodesh Av, give a touch in the Dalet.